G'day listeners, welcome to today's episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heft and today I am joined by Checkers of Marmalade Oz. How you going, mate?
Cheers for having me back in here. It's good to see you. First time this year.
Yeah, it's hard to keep you out of this place actually. You're always putting your hand up to do stuff and you're pretty happy to be in there. So, no, it's good to have you back, mate. What have you been up to?
Just off season.
Yeah. What is off season?
Lots of cricket. Not a lot of footy. Waiting for it to come back.
So for people that have listened to the show before will know Checkers from the show last year. But just describe to our listeners what it is you actually do and things like that.
I think at the moment we're making TikToks and Instagram videos. Last year was kicking footies over roofs and over buildings and over structures and with footy players and anyone alike. And yeah, this year, who knows what's going to happen.
And off-season looks like cricket content, so you're getting right around the Sheffield Shield, Redbacks and stuff like that. Get around the Redbacks.
We're bringing the Shield home this year. It's been way too long.
I love to see it. But you are a diehard St Kilda fan. Those people who are watching the video are looking at your lovely retro Guernsey. How did you become a St Kilda supporter, being a SA boy and all that? What's the go?
I actually went for Port Adelaide in the early 2000s and then had a bit of a family connection to a few of the coaching staff there, and my great grandma lived near the Oval and did a little bit of work there early days. So yeah, just jumped across and
fair enough.
Yeah,
family connection can't really beat that, really. But anyway, we'll move into the actual team itself. So St Kilda, you got a new coach this year, back to Ross the Boss Lyon. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, in the past he's been naturally defensive and it's been a bit gross to watch. And I know there's not a lot of fans of his type of footy, but I guess I thought Ratton was on the right path, but
yeah.
You just have to take what you're given. And I've put down in my notes, if you're worried about Ross, at least we've got Lenny Hayes, Robert Harvey, and Brendan Goddard all came back to the club as well. So that's like, you got to look at like the positives there as well. And I feel like it might have an influence on the way he coaches. And
a bit of feedback there.
Having those ex-players there, sort of, he's brought in some good types, you know, so his first move was to bring in those types, and I guess that was a good move. So
yeah. Now, what type of game are you expecting him to play, and what's its impact on fantasy?
Well, I mean, the Max King going down and all the forwards going down's helped his defensive sort of structure, because normally in the past he's been real low scoring, not a lot of goals kicked in sort of his sort of coaching methods.
Fantasy-wise, from memory, it wasn't too bad though. It was quite possessive. And
game scoring-wise, it wasn't based around kicking a lot of goals.
Yeah.
It was a lot of defensive gameplay. Yeah. It might not be bad for like chip kicks around the ground and fantasy and things like that, like kicking backwards. And But yeah, I mean, no key forward and a defensive coach sort of like works out all right in a way.
Yeah, we are here to talk about fantasy today, so we don't really mind too much on how they're actually going to play as long as they score some fantasy points. So we'll get stuck into a few players. As always, this pre-season, I've been separating players into undervalued, breakout contenders, and stash options. So first player that I think is undervalued is Hunter Clark, just purely because he showed so much promise, I guess, in his second season. He averaged 77 in his second season, but since then he's just never strung it together, whether it be injuries or form. Do you think it could finally be his year? Or do you say that every year?
I've been pretty big on him on Twitter and things like that. So I went through some of his stats, I think, a couple weeks ago on my Twitter. And he's had like a broken jaw, broken nose, AC joint, facial fracture, all in like the last like 2 years. Name it. So it's crazy. Like he gets back on the park for like 2 games, injures himself again. But they're not crazy injuries. Like there's no ACL, there's no like shoulder recur.
It's just unlucky shit, isn't it?
Those big injuries that like really can derail a career, like a hip flexor or something. Like we're not seeing anything crazy that's gonna derail his career, like a broken nose and a broken jaw. You can come back from and play footy from very, But back in 2021, there was a 5-game stretch. I remember this so vividly because it was like his breakout bit, and he had a 5-game stretch. He averaged 94. I mean, it might be clutching at straws. It was 2 years ago, and just a 5-game stretch. But that was just like the potential that he showed he could be, like a 94, 95 averaging midfielder, halfback.
Yep.
So if he gets fit and gets on the park and doesn't get any broken noses or facial fractures this year, that's what I hope he can get to. Like, he's been so much potential. We just have never seen it in full flow. We've only seen it for 5 games in a row. So.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. Like it's been unlucky stuff not super damaging to career-wise. So you just need to hope that he can hold it together for a season, and we should see some value there. So he's one I really like and should slide down in drafts, just given his averages over the last few years and the number of games he's played. Speaking of guys who've been injured, Nick Coffield. So had an awesome season in 2020 in the COVID year, regressed a little bit in 2021, and then missed all of last year with an ACL injury. Well, they always say ACLs are 2-year injuries, but what's your take on his future this year and going forward?
He's another one who showed a bit of promise off half back just before he got injured. And it was sort of like things were looking really up for St Kilda. Like they had Hunter Clark and Coffield in the same draft. I think they'll pick 7 and pick 8 as well. It's like back-to-back picks.
Yeah.
And then they both got injured, and it was like, and I mean, Billings was down at the time as well, so it was like a first-round pick, and everyone was just like so upset. Like, there's 3 high picks, but I mean, Billings was injured last year too.
Yeah.
So imagine getting all 3 back in the park, and I think that'd be like a big thing that Ross will want as well, is like invest in those high picks that have been at the club for a while, get them all back in the park, get them all fit. So I expect. I put a tweet about Coffield earlier in the year too as well, and I reckon I had a few people comment maybe he's not best 22, but I feel like he's young, high draft pick. Ross is going to come into this club and just want to start building for the future. Like he's probably got 2 or 3 years up his sleeve to sort of build these guys up. It's not about winning straight away.
Yeah.
And if he's playing a defensive game set, Coffield off the halfback flank, probably pretty set for a few chip kick marks.
Yeah, I reckon if he's fit and ready to go, he should be in the best 22 considering he was kind of before that. I know he did have a rough 2021, but I don't know, the potential he's shown in the past and just given, natural progression and stuff like that.
Crazy underpriced in Classic as well. I think he's priced just above a rookie price, and probably in most draft leagues you find he's not even, he'd be on the waiver.
Yeah, people won't rank him and stuff like that. Yeah, dropping low. So he's definitely one to consider. A player that I just like, I picked him up in the mid-season draft last year as just handy cover, but that's Callum Wilkie. Just think he's a handy player to own in fantasy. He doesn't go huge every week, but can put up good scores every now and then. He averaged 68.3 last season and showed his ceiling in round 23 against Western Bulldogs in round 28. Round 18. Do you recommend picking him up as just a handy bench option later on?
There's a heap of these types of St Kilda, like the stash options for your bench. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. You got Josh Battle, Tim Membrey, and Callum Wilkie. Like, they're just so consistently scored. Like, they don't drop below like a 50. So you're not going to cop like a gross score, which is real good for draft. Like, they're just consistently in that 65 to 80 bracket, and you know what you're getting every week, which can be very handy for draft because someone who's such a roller coaster can derail your week some weeks, especially if you're playing a top side in your league.
Yep.
The stat against Bulldogs, I mean, it's a bit of an outlier because we know that like Bulldogs give up a lot of intercept marks in their 40-50.
Defenders were scoring really well against them last year.
Terrible at like turning a ball over in their inside 50. Really strong midfield, they pump it in. Wilkie would just dominated with the uncontested marks there.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, him and Membrey and Josh Battle, I think last year were crazy. Like I looked at their numbers. And just like there was no real like outliers, like didn't have any real low games or high games. It was just very consistent scoring. So
yeah, no, he's one I like. Just I think he's a handy option. I guess continuing on the handy option theme that aren't superstars. Tim Membrey, I love this guy. So we all know that key forwards aren't the most sexy names for fantasy, but Membrey's a player who can score pretty consistently. 72 points last season he averaged. Also had 13 scores above 70, 9 scores above 80, and he also played every game last year, which made him a pretty reliable option. I don't know, in a year where forwards are scarce, I think he's a good take at later on in drafts. Do you agree?
Definitely. I think I had him on the bench for a little bit in a few draft leagues. Just very handy cover. Because again, so consistent, like scoring, like he just would bob up for 2 goals and like 15 touches every week.
Yeah.
But with Max King out, I mean, there'd be even more focus on him, so it might even help his scoring. I doubt it would decline his scoring at all. I mean, just get more ball use, really. So
yeah, definitely, he's going to be the number one target up there.
He's one of those ones that in a lot of draft leagues, he's probably going to get chopped this time of year. Like if you're cutting players off your list.
He's on because I've got him on my team. We keep 16. I reckon he's my 16th. I reckon I'm going to keep him.
But there'd be teams, leagues with where you keep 12 or 14.
Yeah, definitely.
Very handy to just pick up.
Yeah, because I just reckon when forwards are going to be scarce.
And he's one that will slide down on other people's radars that don't look too deep into it as well. So a few of the numpties in your league just see Membrey, oh no, he's not.
He's a key forward, crazy, no good.
But that consistent scoring is what you should be looking at. So
yeah, no, I'm a fan of him in a massive way. We'll move on to some breakout contenders now. So Mitch Owens has been likened to Jack Steele in the past, which is who we know is a fantasy beast. Was given a lot of midfield time in round 11 and produced a season high score of 95 then. I think he was concussed in round 13, didn't see him again until round 20, but he was given 63% of the CBAs in round 23, which I think is a really good sign of the future. Do you reckon he could be a breakout player this season?
Potentially, if he gets game time. Very hard to St Kilda because like a lot of these types floating around, like Jack Bytel and trying to think there's a few others that are just like on that cusp of the midfield.
Yeah.
And there's sort of like in that changing of the guard phase where
Seb Ross is probably going
to go out, and then you've got like Zach Jones.
Yeah, definitely.
Brad Crouch is new to the club, but I mean he's still older. They're probably like building that next midfield for the future. You might see him play it forward a little bit, especially with Max King out. I'm feeling he could be a contender for some like forward midfield time because he's like 192 centimeters off the top of my head. He might even be a little bit taller.
Yep.
Big body.
Yeah.
And he did play forward a little bit in the VFL I saw. So.
Yep. He's one of he's
just about getting him on the park.
Yeah.
See if he gets game time. I don't know. He's probably not best 22, but if he gets in a bit of a run, we saw last year when he came back, he's stunk it up when he came in early in the year. Didn't get much game time.
Yeah.
But I think he scored like a 95.
Yeah, it was in round
classic like blue. Everyone jumped on him.
Yeah,
obviously
round 11 it was. Yeah.
But yeah, imagine he gets like on a little bit of a run, like a 4-game run, and you snag a few 80s or 90s for your draft team. It could be all right to have.
Yeah, I think just if he gets the right opportunity, he's the type that could score. So just hopefully he gets it. And he's a breakout contender if he gets that. Moving on to some stash options now. Some guys that I think kind of maybe 1 or 2 years away from reaching their kind of full breakout in AFL fantasy. But the first one I really like the look of is Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. He's just a silky smooth operator, really. Used on the wing a lot last season, but he's a player that I think St Kilda just will want the ball in his hands. Wouldn't be surprised if he moved to like a halfback flank at some stage and was a distributor around then. It might mean some time, but do you think he could become a good fantasy scorer one day?
Definitely. His foot skills are really good, so I think they'll use him for that. They'll put him on the halfback flank for sure. I reckon that'll be his move this year. And I mean, he reminds me of Brad Hill, but just with much better foot skills. So
yeah, for sure. I think he's a great player. So he's one I really like for the future. Another one I really like the start to his career was Jack Hayes. 127 points on his debut last year, wasn't it? In his first game. Also had 105 in round 5 as well. So another one that the fantasy, especially the classic world, were really licking their lips at. Did his ACL though in round 6 and missed the rest of the season. I reckon he's had another injury setback in the pre-season.
Foot injury from memory, I saw. But I mean, he looked unreal in those first few games, and we thought he was going to be like a next level player. But I'm just worried. He's 27 or 28 now.
Yeah, he's getting older.
Getting older. He's just coming off an ACL.
Recruit.
His scoring the sample's pretty good, but it was a real feel good story last year. Like it blew people away. We didn't expect that ton in the first round. We thought maybe he might score like 40.
Yeah.
And I just think don't be expecting like 100s when he comes back.
Yeah.
People might think that. That's just the sort of player he is. But I thought it was like crazy. I thought it was well above what he was capable of, and it just might not. Might be a little bit flattening coming back.
That's kind of why I've got him as a stash, because it's like he may be good, he might not be, but he's worth kind of holding on to just in case.
Yeah, I mean, in my head is like other people would overrate him in a way. Like people see his name and think he's a gun. And so if you had him on your bench, it could be a good trade option. Like you could get overs for him.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, especially if they don't know that injury setback for this year as well. Marcus Windhager is the last player I want to talk about. So 18 games in his first season. Played up forward for a lot of the season, but he was recruited as a midfielder. Put up some good scores towards the end of the year, and his better scores were when he played in the midfield. Another one that had a high percentage of centre bounce attendances over his last few games. So he actually had 61.4% of the attendances over his last 5 games. I think that's just good signs going forward. I'm not sure if we'll see the AFL fantasy breakout this year, but he's one I like for the future. What are your thoughts?
His fitness, I think he won the time trial.
Yeah, beautiful.
He's ticking a lot of boxes. St Kilda love him. I know that they post about him all the time.
Yeah, that's good.
Fans love him. So he'd be one for the future. I don't know if the fantasy scoring is just there just yet.
Yeah.
But he's definitely should be in the best 22, so he'll get game time.
Cool.
Will come.
So he's one to have as your stash options there. Any other players you can think of that I've missed, you reckon?
Yeah, I've got a couple written down.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do it in the structure that you've got.
That's all right. No, whatever way you do it.
Or anything like that. But obviously, like with Rowan Marshall taking the number 1 ruck role this year.
Yep.
No Paddy Ryder around. Max King injured. And Jack Hayes injured. There's not a lot of tall timber around, so I just put Tom Campbell on my list.
Yep.
He's got forward DPP, so if he does break into the best 22, he can be very handy because you can either stash him as a ruck or a forward, which can be handy in draft because there's,
He's going to hurt Marshall's scoring though if he plays.
If he plays, he will, because he's probably not a natural forward, and Marshall is a natural forward, so you might see I would still say Marshall takes number 1 ruck role, but Campbell would probably take a few more minutes than a normal number 2 ruck.
I will say that people are spooked by the end of last season where we saw Campbell come in and everyone's saying like he carved up in the VFL, earned his spot, should be playing, in the first team. He's carved up at VFL his whole career and never been selected as like in the side. So like people that think like saw his VFL scores last year and said, well, he's, knocking the door down. He's been doing that for like 5 years, really.
Yeah, I just think if he comes in and has a good game, then Ross might back him in a little bit.
Yeah, okay. That's a bit of a worry.
The other one that could play ruck is Josh Battle.
Yeah.
And he's another one that's got that like pretty handy scoring line where he doesn't really have a bad game.
Yeah.
So if he goes into the middle a bit more and sees a few more like ruck contests, they'll use him around the ground a lot.
Oh, he can do anything, can't he?
Because he's a strong body, strong body, so he can take a lot of the boundary throw-ins.
Yeah.
So just keep an eye on him because he might like boost his scoring by like 5 or 10 points, which pushes him into like that 75, 80 range.
Yeah, he's that one that you want to play that kind of loose roll across half back, but because he's so handy as like a lockdown, like kind of key defender, but then also can go forward and play a key forward role. And I think he's been on the wing in the past as well.
Yeah,
like
he's done
been
everywhere.
Yeah,
but I mean, if he gets like just say a 10% boost in the ruck, it's probably a 5 to 10 point increase in your scoring. So
yeah, he's one to
keep
have a look at there. Any others?
I put Mason Wood down. I put a tweet out about him earlier in the year because I stashed him in a lot of draft leagues as well because he averaged 95 in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
Obviously, with all the injuries at St Kilda, I'm worried he's going to go back up forward. He was playing on the wing.
Yeah, he was more valuable when he had forward status, but now he's only got mid status, I think, this year as well.
And I had him stashed on a lot of benches just because he was playing on the wing. I thought he could be a bit of like that 90 Blake Acres sort of Nat Fyfe type role. But yeah, if he's going up forward, then just scrap that idea. I saw a couple other people did that.
Just have a look at the makeup of the midfield and who's playing on those wings.
And then I've just flagged 2 more. I've got Jack Higgins just flagged to see if he gets midfield time. If you go through his VFL stats and junior stats, he's crazy.
Beast.
I think we've spoken about it. I've spoken about it before on here as well.
Yep.
But like scoring average like 140 or something in the midfield in like under 18.
Yep.
So never got the chance at St Kilda, but who knows with the new coach? Just if you ever see an increase in his CBAs or anything, just flag it because he'll be so low on everyone's draft rankings and everything. You might be able to pick him up real cheap. So who knows what will happen? Just new coach. And then I've also got Zach Jones, who's got real low draft ownership.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a bit of mentality because he's a Jones, Nathan Jones, he's got a bald head. Everyone thinks he's so old.
Yeah.
He's only 27 years old.
I know he's younger,
which is like, he's basically the same age as Josh Kelly. So in my head, I thought he was like 30, 32, like on the verge of like a veteran. But yeah, 27-year-old midfielder. He's obviously had a few injuries the last few years.
If he's looking like playing though, he has been a pretty reasonable scorer, like one that rounds out your midfield pretty nicely.
He could score like decent 85, 90s and will probably not be on a lot of waivers. So who knows with the new coach, they might want to put a bit of grunt in the midfield. Yeah, I
don't mind that one. Just if you can get in there.
Zach Jones is one that a lot of people just pass over because they think he's a veteran, I think. I got that feeling in my head that he was in his 30s, but
he's a younger player. All right, well, that'll wrap it up for the players we're going to talk about. We'll get into some listener questions in a second. Just want to thank some gold members. So thank you to Bradley Dunmore, Andy Del Pozzo, Nick Miller, Daniel Larzell, Tim Whalen, Damon Kilman, Brian Miller, Rich Summers, Dion Harper, it's spelt differently, but he corrected me last year on how to say his name, so I remember, and Ray Loscombe. So thank you to those gold members there. Basically, members, you can get access to all of our premium resources on our website, but also you get the satisfaction of knowing you're supporting the podcast, keeping it going each week, because membership is the thing that makes this thing viable going forward. So thank you to those gold members who have signed up to support the show. If you wish to sign up as a member, check the link in the description below and sign up there. All right, let's get into some listener questions. We'll try to skip over the ones we've already kind of talked about, but the first one comes from @CollingRon1. What do you think of our man Ryan Burns? What do you think of him going forward?
I just don't know if he's best 22. He gets a couple of games every year.
He shows so much promise.
But yeah, I don't know if he's in the best 22. There's a lot of players coming back from injury.
Yeah,
we've spoken about a few already, like Billings, Hunter Clark, Coffield.
I think Louis from the Pod is responsible for a lot of Ryan Burns' love because really talked him up a couple of years ago, and everyone's still kind of hanging on to those words. I think
he was a real point of difference rookie. I remember in his draft, in his rookie year, he came in mid-season maybe, and no one was really on him. He had very low ownership. Yeah, I don't think he hung around too long, but looked alright when he came in.
At Isaac_WF, I think we've kind of answered this one, but with Seb Ross probably set to fall away in the coming years, is there potential for Mitch Owens and Windhager to kick on? I might just rephrase it. If it's like Seb Ross does drop out, who comes in first into that midfield? Windhager or Owens?
I'd say Windhager at the moment. Yep. I think Windhager provides a bit more tagging wise and in his role, whereas Mitch Owens is probably very similar to Jack Steele. And if you're going to put Hunter Clark in the midfield, it's also very similar. So you don't want 3 Jack Steele. I mean, everyone wants 3 Jack Steeles in the midfield.
I'll take 3.
But structure-wise, you might use Windhager before you use
fair
Owens,
enough. Just offers something different to the other two. At Pies 2211, is it Jack Bytel's season in 2023?
I hope so. He's another one that's been so injury-prone, showed so much promise, but...
He actually got put on like a fitness program mid-season, didn't he, last year?
So. And he was rookie listed and everything. He almost got cut.
Yeah,
and so
might be struggling a bit there.
His scoring's good in the VFL, so...
Might just be that suited to that level, though, unfortunately, I think. At Cursing Fijian wants to know, who goes bigger this year out of Coffield, Windhager and Burns? Who do you think goes the biggest out of those 3?
I'll say Windhager scores the most, then Coffield, then Burns.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean... Coffield just provides that he's a defender. So
yeah, if Coffield, I reckon, was like not coming off an ACL, I'd probably have him higher. But just because that,
it'd be like a second half of the year.
Yeah,
Burner, like the first half might be a little bit slow.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about Josh Battle, but do you think there's any danger of Ranger J87 basically wants to know, is there any chance Josh Battle gets a fantasy-friendly role, or does he go forward to cover King? You said before you kind of think he might get a bit of ruck time. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'd like second half of last year when they didn't have Ryder for a few games, he definitely played a lot of ruck. So if they don't go Campbell, if Campbell's in the team, I'd expect Battle to just lock down like he normally does or play it down back or whatever.
Yeah.
But if there's no Campbell, then they run with Marshall solo, then Battle will get ruck minutes. So.
And a bit of forward time as well, probably. Yeah. At Matty DeSena wants to know, will Jack Billings gain DPP?
It's hard to tell at the moment.
fair bit, mostly on the wing last year, wasn't it?
When it's based on last year, no, but you got to see what Ross does. Who knows? I in my head, I could have so many swaps for that St Kilda team. Like Jack Higgins can go on the midfield, Mitch Owens and Billings could go up forward. Like there's so much versatility there that we don't know what's going to happen till we see a pre-season game. So just go wait to see what Ross does.
Yeah, exactly. It's so hard to tell this stage of the year, but we should get a good idea in the next couple of weeks. Nick Yates, we've already talked about the Ross line game style, so that's what he wanted to know about. But he wants to know, will he blood rookies this year?
I think he has to a little bit. Be part of the agreement is that you've got a couple of years to build the team. It's not really like you have to come in and make an impact straight away. Yeah. It's one of those teams where, they're probably not expecting to make finals. Everyone expects
weird,
to make finals.
You made the finals 2 years ago and everything was looking up, and then it's just gone backwards from there. So, given the list profile back then and kind of the way things should progress, you really should have the list that's coming into that finals type, given the age profile and stuff like that. It's just... can it happen on the park? I don't really know.
They've hit the draft pretty well the last few years.
Yeah.
So I feel
a bit of one of those mini rebuilds.
Yeah. Philippou coming in.
Yeah.
All the players come back from injury, so...
Yeah, hopefully that kind of turns things around for you guys. But anyway, that'll wrap it up. Anything to plug? You got anything coming up, or what's the go?
No, not a lot. Just coming up the footy season, we'll be doing bits and pieces there. So
now, hopefully, I don't have to cut this out. But did I hear you're planning a podcast, or you're starting a podcast?
We've done 2 episodes so far. Yeah.
Yep. So what's that one called?
On Toast.
On Toast. Awesome. And that's just available on all the Spotify, Apple, that sort of stuff.
Spotify, Apple, everywhere.
I haven't actually. You've kept that one pretty quiet, I reckon. I haven't really heard that one. So
I mean, we're just probably planning to kick it into gear during footy season.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just sort of like
bit of a test run now.
Yeah, during footy season we'll get a lot of footy names on and footy creators, but at the moment, just using a few TikTok creators we've met. Yeah,
no, sounds good. Well, if you ever need someone, mate, just where I am.
Definitely. We'll have you on when fantasy kicks into gear so we can make it real relevant, because at the moment, footy guys, they're a bit dormant. They're still waking up. Fair enough. You need to get the more Redbacks content, I reckon. Yeah. But, we'll wrap that one up. So, we had a live show coming up at the Highway with DT Talk on the 25th of February. You're going to make an appearance at that one, aren't you? Yeah, I'll be down there. Yep, so that'll be good. Get around, check us there. Might get you on stage to do something, maybe skull
some milk or something like that, like you're known to do on TikTok. But yeah, we've given Marmalade a plug, so get around them on TikTok and Instagram, marmalade_Oz, for all that kind of great footy content. You've probably seen them everywhere by now, especially after kicking talks with Gil and trying to track down Strawny. So bit of that going on. Get around our stuff at Keeper League Pod, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. You can check all that stuff out, and make sure you get around our sponsors, Manscaped. Use the code KEEPIT20 at manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping. What a deal. Get around it. And sign up as a member if you want to support the show. Anyways, thanks, Checkers. Thanks for coming on. And we'll talk to you very soon. We should see you a bit this year on the podcast. So, yeah, it's going to be good to have you on board.
Sounds good.
No worries. See ya, listeners. Take it easy.